Ladies and gentlemen, the next live stream that I have, it'll probably be in a couple of days from now. we're going to read the indictment, all 27 pages of the Michael Sussman indictment. And it's public record. You can read it for yourself. It's justice.gov. It's just a PDF. And if you do a word search for executive branch, you could just do a word search for executive branch. Okay? And I urge the New York Times and Washington Post journalists and reporters at CNN and MSNBC, do a word search for executive branch. What do you find? You find two very important references among data that University One accessed through Internet Company One was the DNS data of an executive branch office of the U.S. government, which Internet Company One had come to possess as a subcontractor in a sensitive relationship between the U.S. government and another company. Number one, this is a rhetorical question. Did that sensitive relationship entail surveillance of an incoming president, Trump? Of course not. President Obama had a contract, apparently. Or the Obama administration had a contract with a tech executive. I mean, the information's all in the indictment, but I will just, for legal purposes, okay, just to be safe, a tech company and a tech executive and tech researchers had access because of an existing contract to executive branch data. And I explained this in my segment prior to this. So hit subscribe to this channel, hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. I will be doing a lot more work on that channel soon. But President Trump, while he was president, because the information that was obtained also after 2017, according to the indictment. Who was president after 2017? It wasn't President Obama, it was Donald Trump. So the information obtained about Trump was not only in various other locations, his apartment, Trump Tower, other locations. It was also within, I'll read it again, among the data that University One accessed through Internet Company One was the DNS data of an executive branch office of the U.S. government, which Internet Company One had come to possess as a subcontractor in a sensitive relationship between the U.S. government and another company. Now, when the New York Times says, well, this is a Byzantine explanation or a very complex Byzantine state of affairs, yes, you have internet companies, you have researchers at Georgia Tech, you have a tech executive, you have an attorney paid by Clinton, and the tech executive working with the attorney paid by Clinton. And all of this information being obtained for the sole purpose of setting up and framing Trump. But if you ask a journalist at the New York Times or the Washington Post, well, there's no evidence of that. They were just obtaining information. For what purpose? Clinton paid for the information. Sussman is being indicted because apparently he lied to the FBI's top legal counsel, James Baker. Baker claims under oath that he didn't know Sussman was working on behalf of Clinton. Had he known, well, then he would not have accepted the information that was utilized to initiate investigations of Trump. They later found out that the information Sussman gave led to nothing. This precedent, by the way, could be used against Democrats as well. They don't get that because they think that the world revolves around them. Media will never leave the Democratic Party, will always parrot Democratic Party talking points, and government officials will just always be suspicious of Trump and Trump Republicans and never suspicious of Democrats. But the issue here is that if you have an existing, if you have an existing contract from President Obama's administration for tech executives and researchers and internet companies. And somebody's direct political rival finds a way to politicize information or a contract with an outgoing administration to engage in surveillance of an incoming administration, that's a huge national security risk. That's a huge problem we have. Because then you can have Republicans and Democrats constantly engaging in surveillance of each other and initiating investigations through government agencies against one another. Now, Democrats don't think that's possible against them. The hubris is unbelievable. But here, on or about September 19, 2016, within the District of Columbia, Michael A. Sussman, defendant, did willfully and knowingly make a materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement or representation in a matter before the jurisdiction of the executive branch of the government of the United States. To wit, on or about September 19, 2016, the defendant stated to the General Counsel of the FBI that he was not acting on behalf of any client in conveying particular allegations concerning a presidential candidate, when in truth and in fact, and as the defendant well knew, he was acting on behalf of specific clients, not just Clinton, namely Tech Executive One and the Clinton campaign. Signed, John H. Durham, Special Counsel, U.S. Department of Justice. Yes, he exists. I can't stand when, well, does he exist? Yeah, he exists. My God almighty. The reason you don't see him, and you see him only, or like this channel talks about him, and maybe 5 or 6 other people on the planet talk about the Durham Probe Special Counsel, is because media does not want to admit that they've been perpetuating lies, and it's called now misinformation, but see, really what it is lies. And they perpetuate it the most. The people who complain about lies and information that's not accurate and that's misleading perpetuate and spread the most bogus, absurd, fictitious, fabricated narratives and myths. They literally purchase their own myths. It is now a myth that Trump was installed by the Kremlin. So enough, millions upon millions, tens of millions of liberal Democrats or people who just don't like Trump actually believe that Vladimir wanted Trump, that the Ruskies wanted Trump. And nothing could be further from the truth. It was mere projection. It was overt projection. You see what's taking place now. I mean, the worst thing that could possibly happen in Europe is taking place under Biden's administration. And then the way to refute that is they say, well, that's because the Kremlin got what it wanted with Trump, so they were so upset that they had to invade under Biden. It's like, what? How does that make any sense at all? The worst fears of Trump's administration, that he was a puppet, that he was working on behalf of another country, are actually taking place during Biden's administration. So when they were setting up and framing Trump, it was all projection. They're the ones who were compromised. They're the ones who make millions upon millions in legal graft, which is what Tammany Hall was all about. And it's still about that now. Legal graft. Legal. All of this is legal to an extent. Now, they got Sussman on lying to James Baker, the top legal counsel. However, Sussman now has to defend himself, as does Danchenko. Kleinsmith was an FBI, so Durham indicted 3 people, 1 FBI official. That's difficult right now to get any of the government officials at this very moment. It isn't really with the public record, but he wants an airtight, 100% certain case. So Danchenko and Sussman, what they have to do is the following, which is not difficult. They have to actually prove to the court that the government or government officials knew exactly what they were doing, and they too wanted to set up and frame Trump. That's going to be very difficult for both sides. Now you see the government and attorneys and operatives and journalists that worked in a symbiotic relationship in unison. Now they're going to be split and divorced from one another in court. That's going to help Trump. People are going to flip and sing, just like everything they said about Trump. The flipping and singing will take place during the Durham Probe Special Counsel, and each indictment will peel the layers off. And the New York Times and Washington Post and MSNBC and CNN will try desperately to refute everything because they devoted their lives and their souls and their hearts to perpetuating the myth that Trump was installed by our adversary. This Cold War myth. And the opposite is true. And what took place is they had to actually fabricate all of those lies. They legitimized or justified the suspicion of Trump. Propaganda is about emotion, not about information. It's about emotion. Look what political side runs on the most emotion now. 20 years ago, it was the Republican side. Now, it's the Democratic Party side. Emotion is utilized like a weapon by Democrats and media. To be suspicious is feel an emotion. They want you suspicious of Trump. They can't have you suspicious of Hunter or mashed potato brains Biden or Clinton or Democrats, even though your lying eyes tell you the obvious. That they're the ones accepting legal graft from payments, and they're the ones setting up and framing Trump, utilizing, very creative, despicable, deceptive methods. And then they never ask the questions of their own side that they ask of Trump because they don't allow that suspicion to take place. But here you have executive branch, an internet company, an internet executive, an attorney, working in a sensitive relationship between the U.S. government and other companies. And then they exploited access. It says, the purpose of providing Internet Company 1 data to University 1 during this time period was to enable researchers who worked under Agency 1 contract to protect U.S. networks from cyber. Okay, but see, there was no evidence that Trump ever engaged in that. They had to, within this indictment, it says, weave something up, create something for the VIPs that are paying us. And the interesting issue is that executive branch servers were breached while Trump was in office. And they almost certainly had access to the executive branch servers after a new president. So Trump, essentially, his administration took over a contract that was signed by his predecessor, in which almost certainly the people who were obtaining this information, the contract never stated that they should all, find info on Trump, find data, and give that data to government agents or government officials. However, it's interesting that President Trump's administration took over. The executive branch contract that was signed under President Obama's administration was still apparently in force during Trump's administration and was used against him. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I'll have another segment on this very soon in a couple of